So hello everyone. In this video we are just going to discuss about the very good chapter which is ellipse, which comes into the coordinate geometry and which is very important for us, and in so many exams the questions come through this portion. So let's just talk about this. Let's talk about ellipse. Okay, so let's talk about this, which is ellipse. Okay, so now just let's talk firstly that what actually ellipse is and how it is basically formed. So ellipse is basically like this, and so it is basically defined that if through any point, like this is S, this is P, and this is basically M. That means the curve is basically defined in such a way that through this curve, if you are just drawing in such a way that through a fixed point and through a fixed line, the distance is going out to be, that means the PS upon PM is always coming out to be constant E, then what it would be given? It would be given as to be the ellipse. So, so let's draw this. That means the condition is that PS upon PM is coming out to be E. Then what it would be calling? We would be calling it as to be the ellipse. Okay. So this is very basically the condition given for this. So that means this is very basically a ellipse. That means it is just like if you would be drawing in such a way, it would be coming out to be a ellipse. That means through a fixed point, and to a fixed line, you are just drawing in such a way that it is actually coming out to be a ellipse. This is basically given as to be the very basic definition of ellipse. Now just let's get familiar with some of the term which is very important to know, so that we could further solve the questions. So we are having this, supposingly this is x and this is basically y. So you are having this is basically term as to be the ellipse. Okay, now this is f1 and this is basically f2. So this is basically considered as to be the focus 1 and this is basically considered as to be the focus 2. Okay, now here this is focus 1 and here this is focus 2. Focus 1 and focus 2 over here. Okay, now this point is basically given as to be present at a comma 0. This point is given as to be present at minus a comma 0. This point is given as to be present at 0 comma b. This point is given as to be present at 0 comma minus b. Okay, so 0 comma minus b is over here. So what this distance is called, what this longer distance is called, this longer distance is basically called as to be the major axis, and this is smaller shorter distance, this shorter distance is basically called as to be the minor axis. So this is basically considered as to be the minor axis over here. Okay, so the major axis and the minor axis present over here, this is basically considered as to be the major axis, this is smaller part is considered as to be the minor axis. Okay, now this is very basically the all those term which is actually involved in ellipse, so that it would be very basically easy for us to solve so many questions which is involved in such kinds of problems. So was very basically all those kinds of things. This is basically considered as to be the center which is present at 0 comma 0. So if someone is asking you if any kind of a questions like what is the coordinate of foci, so foci is present at where it is would be present at AE comma 0. This would be present at minus AE comma 0. This would present at minus A comma 0. This is present at A comma 0. So this is basically considered to be present at A comma 0. This is presented minus A comma 0. This is presented minus A comma 0. This is A comma 0. So these are all things which we just talked about. Okay. Now there is a one thing also very important in it, which is very basically lattice rectum. So let's talk about that. So this is very basically the lattice rectum over here. This is also the lattice rectum over here. The lattice rectum over here is basically over here. So the length of the lattice rectum in an ellipse is basically given as to be 2b squared upon a. So this is basically the length of the lattice rectum which we are just defining over here. So this is very basically the term, all those kinds of terms which is involved in the ellipse. Later with all those kinds of problems, the question we will be discussing in another video.